Alright, so we're checking out this 15.6-inch portable monitor from a company called 4Help. There's a ton of these on Amazon, and I'll explain sort of the differences you should be looking for in terms of price and features a little bit later in the video. But yeah, first of all, let's just talk about this monitor and its specs. It's a 15.6-inch panel. It is got a very thin bezel, and the bezel is like a metallic material, and also it's metallic on the back. Very thin. This is very light, weighs about 1.8 pounds, and you can see it's only about, just looking at it from the side, it's only about 10 centimeters, or sorry, 10 millimeters thick. Very, very thin. There are some ports here on the left side, so we've got your HDMI, or actually it's the mini HDMI in over there. That's where that cable's going in. Then you have two USB-C ports, so you can be using that for power and data. And this one here is using the USB-C for power in the bottom. You can plug in USB-C certain like smartphones and tablets that can output DisplayPort video. For example, my Samsung Note 20 Ultra can output video on USB-C, and you can connect this up to a phone to use it as a large display extension. So over here on the right, we've got a power on-off and input selector button. That's one on top, and then you have a little rocker here. You can press it in to access the menu and OSD and make your selections. And then you have a 3.5 millimeter audio jack. There are speaker ports here on the right and the left on both sides. They're so pretty tiny 1-watt speakers, so not super loud and kind of tinny. Basically no bass whatsoever. And yeah, so I wouldn't recommend listening to music or anything like that, but for general purpose audio, it's fine. So there is a magnetic cover on this that comes off pretty easily, and it's also being used as a stand, so it'll cover the back, and then once you fold it down, you can cover the front here and protect the panel. It has a couple of points here where the monitor can sit, and that basically gives you different viewing angles. And the viewing angle here is about 178 degrees. You can see I'm almost to the edge. You can still see pretty clearly what we're looking at here. So it's got pretty good viewing angles. It is an IPS display, not LCD or OLED. The brightness of the panel is 300 nits. So if you don't want to use this cover stand to prop up the monitor, you can mount it to a proper monitor mount. There are, as I said, there's a 75 Visa mount screw holes in the back of the panel, so you can use that, but the actual mount itself is not included. So in terms of what you get in the box, as I said, you get the monitor, you get the cover and stand, and then you get two USB-C type cables. So you have a USB to USB-C cable and a USB-C to USB-C cable, and then you have a mini HDMI to micro HDMI cable. Those are all included, as well as a small power brick that can actually connect the USB-A cable to power up the monitor. And you can see here I have it connected to my laptop via the HDMI port there. I'm just using it as a extended monitor. The resolution of this monitor is 1920 by 1080. So of course, if you're looking for higher end specs, for example, maybe like more brightness, higher resolution, those type of things, that's going to bump you up into a higher price range. So this one's coming in around $75. That's what the current price is on this one. There's a lot of these panels here in this sort of budget. This is kind of like the super budget price range, and basically what you're going to get here is a 1920 by 1080 panel. So 1080p panel, IPS typically around 300 nits or so, give or take. Depends on the manufacturer. Sometimes it'll be a little bit less, sometimes a little bit more. And of course, all of these panels in this price range are going to be 60 hertz. That's what this one is. So the refresh rate, if you want a higher one, say like 120, 144, you're going to be bumping up into a higher price range. Typically, if you go up in resolution to 2K or 4K or higher refresh rate, 120 hertz, 144 hertz, that's going to bump you up into the next price range. Typically 100, 150, sometimes over $200 for a 15.6-inch panel. And of course, there's various sizes as well. You can get down to like 11.6, 13.3, 14.4. Some of the typical ones are smaller than this one. And then you have 16, 17.3, and I believe that's about as large as you're going to get for something in this portable category. But as I mentioned, on Amazon, there are a whole bunch of these panels here in this under $100 budget category. And typically, you know, you're going to find it as an IPS panel and about 300 nits of brightness, and the panel is going to be 60 hertz. So I can't vouch for what the other panels are going to look like in terms of what you're going to get out of the box. Like, all I can say is that this one here has, for the money, I think for the specs, it's pretty reasonable, you know, in terms of performance. Now, the brightness for indoor use is totally fine at 300 nits. If you're going to be using it outdoors, then you're going to probably want to go with something a little bit more expensive in the 450 to 500 nit range. And those are typically going to be closer to $200, I think. You know, roughly a little bit more than double than the price of this one. You do pay a premium for a bright panel if you want to use it outdoors. Now, this panel here, on the product spec page, it says it's a glossy panel, but this is clearly a matte panel. Now, I've noticed that a lot of the panels out there, especially ones that people have reviewed in this size for portable panels, typically come with a glossy screen or glossy panel, and that combined with a low brightness rating makes it a lot harder to see even indoors when you have a glossy panel. So that's one of the things I liked about this one here, is a matte panel, and you are able to see this no problem indoors, even at 300 nits. The color reproduction is not good out of the box. It's on some kind of weird user setting, which I didn't like. It does come with an sRGB setting you can change in the menu, so I recommend changing that to that. That's what I have on here, and that color reproduction is actually pretty good. It's like, I think it's like 77% RGB or some sort of Adobe RGB rated. You know, not amazing or anything like that, but it's gonna get the job done for most things if you're just using it as a secondary panel. You can, of course, calibrate the panel as well and do your own, you know, tweaking of the different levels of RGB. But the sRGB out of the box setting, as you see here, seems to be good for me. Anyway, so if you've been looking for a 15.6-inch panel and you're okay with these specs, you know, 1080p, 60 hertz, and 300 nits of brightness, this one definitely is, I think, good enough for the money. It's coming in around $75. If you're just going to be using it with your laptop and taking it on trips, you know, if you're using it for business, and you just want an extra panel, you know, another panel to extend your display if you're using a laptop, in this scenario right here, this will be just fine. You can extend your desktop and then open up more windows, and it will suit that purpose perfectly fine for that. And it's very lightweight, under 2 pounds. You know, it'll fit, you know, into your laptop bag. It's not too much bigger than my laptop. My laptop has a 14-inch screen, so it's a little bit bigger than, in terms of the dimensions, a little bit bigger than my laptop, but should fit into most laptop bags, and it'll give you an extra display. Anyway, hope you found the video helpful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. I'll put a link in the video description if you guys want to check out this particular monitor, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.